Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to the AIP podcast. Again, I'm your host, Cheng from Supercharge Lab, on behalf of the AI Partnerships Corp. Today, we are exploring the most recent developments in cloud computing innovation for AI and machine learning. We have a visionary leader and technologist joining us who is driving significant progress in the area. We're going to be welcoming the Chief Executive Officer of Radium Cloud Company, Adam Hendin, and we are very glad to have him join our AIP podcast. Radium Cloud is headquartered in Toronto, Canada, and it is on a mission to revolutionize the landscape of AI and machine learning development in the cloud. Radium Cloud, established by a group of skilled entrepreneurs with amazing backgrounds in technology and supported by guidance from key figures from the University of Toronto, is going to transform the development and use of AI models. Today we have Adam. He's a serial entrepreneur and CEO in the media and technology space. He is joining us for a deep discussion about the radical shift that Radium is. Adam, welcome to our show. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Anna. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Absolutely. Perhaps we can start with telling us, about the inspiration behind Radium Cloud's founding and how your personal experience inspired the company's goals.
Love to. So, founding the company here in Toronto, not everybody who's outside of the little AI orbit that exists within the GTA or within Toronto is familiar with Jeffrey Hinton, who's quite famous when it comes to artificial intelligence. He's created really a brain trust here, and this is Jeff being a Turing Award winner. Him and his two colleagues are essentially responsible for modern day AI as we know it. They created the network, and these neural networks are what we now know as large language models and generative AI. And pre ChatGPT, it was really a research community that I had stumbled into while incubating this AI or early vision within in Radium, and we were just inspired. Some of the work that they were trying to develop required a unique approach to cloud computing. I think there was some frustration within the existing offerings. And once we were able to get within some real close proximity to, which are, I think, now well respected, I'd say, all stars within the space, what they were working on was really inspirational. And I wanted to be involved some way, somehow. The easiest way for us to be involved was outside of begging. How can we add value? Like, what problems can we really help solve? My background being on the infrastructure software combination side, an affinity towards what would be an underlying platform to build on top of. And if we could help provide value as a solution to some of these problems, what became apparent was the cost. And the cost is really wild when you think of what it takes to develop artificial intelligence at large. And I think these days, where Radium spends its energy and where I think the world has really leaned into is this generative AI, large language model, kind of chat GPT-esque technology, as it were. And so without realizing it, what we were creating in the earliest days of Radium was a platform where we could use a foundation of innovation and technology to solve one of the biggest challenges that I would still say persists today, which is the cost. And this is where we were successful at the beginning. It was really Jeffrey Hinton, University of Toronto, and the innovation they were working on that was the inspiration.
That's crazy. Well, I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Hinton, so let's talk a little bit about Radium Cloud's flagship product. It's called Launchpad, and how does it leverage cutting-edge cloud computing technologies to reduce model training times and even facilitate faster iterations and helping people to reduce the cost of development?
It's a great question. So, a couple of things. First, I think in the very recent past, I think within the last 30, 45 days, we've started to evolve Launchpad into what we're now calling Radium Build. And the genesis of Launchpad is really still the main component of Build, but I think the foundation of Radium, what we're realizing is now carrying across multiple products within our platform. And this underlying foundation is one where within we call them the incumbents, but think of Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Platform, of course, Microsoft. These are legacy that are known as hyperscalers within the space, platforms that enterprise really has relied on, I would argue now for decades, and they've been market leaders. And one of the biggest fundamental changes is this absolute runaway NVIDIA. And with NVIDIA owning the intellectual property, not these three big giants, it's allowed companies like Radium to show off some of our innovation in using the NVIDIA processor in comparison to the likes of AWS. And that's attracted NVIDIA to work with Radium. And that's given us a real advantage where we can then design from a ground up approach specifically for artificial intelligence. So that removes things like virtualization, it removes some of the middleware, it removes some of the network virtualization, and all of these little things that AWS has to industries like hosting Netflix or just generic non AI related services, we at Radium don't have to focus on. And when you remove all these things, you really find a level of efficiency. And if you think about it, the whole point of efficiency when it comes to AI, most people who are developing AI do so in the cloud. And the longer you're consuming these cloud services, the larger your bill is. And if you can reduce the amount of cloud services or compute that you're consuming, you can really save a lot of money. If you think of how expensive it is to employ machine learning engineers and data scientists, it really starts to have a really big impact on companies. And so we've really kind of changed this into the foundation layer of our business and started to solve problems beyond that in different products. So what was originally formerly Launchpad has turned into Radium Build. And we now feel that why should people really need to even think about compute or these foundational pieces? If you are to deploy anything in generative AI, the same way we all use a Mac or a PC and use our mouse to kind of click around through user interface, we're now working to launch the evolution of Launchpad where you can merely choose a large language model, point to connect it to your data, and immediately start having the utility value where all of the automation of the computing layers and the network and the cloud resources and administrative, all of these things are now done autonomously behind the scenes without the users even having to think about it. It's pretty wild stuff.
That's amazing. So talking a little bit about startups as well as businesses, right? How does Radium Cloud help them to deal with the challenges that really come with developing and implementing AI, not just in quicker model training, but really the development of AI solutions?
Great question. And I think the way that we see the world where almost two kind of larger buckets, and then we would say subgroups within. So within the earlier stage companies, there are those who are creating AI itself and creating the deep technology that will eventually turn into application use. And then there are those earlier stage companies that are working on something that's maybe less AI focused, but want to use the utility of AI to maybe increase sales or efficiency or to support whatever their business focus is. So main bucket and subgroup. And then the other side is, of course, enterprise. And I'll speak to that in a second. The earlier stage companies, I think a lot of early stage companies can't really afford to have deep tech. So think of, again, the machine learning engineering teams, the data science teams, and then you would really need to understand a really nuanced level of infrastructure management. And by infrastructure management, again, I mean these cloud resources, this exotic compute from NVIDIA, supercomputing essentially, which type of network, what type of network settings. So a lot of engineering teams now are really getting frustrated by how much time they spend in just setting up a platform which they can build their technology on. So I think that's the number one thing that Radium is solving for right now, over and above cost, of course, is it's just very easy to use. You don't need to spend a lot of engineering time. And if we can remove the amount of technical resource or the sophistication level of some of the engineering staff that you would need to have by making things really easy and automated. It really makes Radium an easy place to develop AI as an earlier stage company. And our newest platform, which is still built on this underlying foundation, we're calling Deploy, where it's truly consumption based. So again, as an earlier stage company, you probably haven't raised as much capital. Your business is likely earlier. You're working to add AI to solve problems or efficiencies within your business. And for Radium, very similar to a company we all know, Stripe, the payment processor, we've now been able to create a new platform that's connected, running on our foundation, where these earlier stage companies can merely choose a large language model, again, connect it to data or other parts of information that are proprietary to these businesses. And the same way you would be able to take Stripe for payment processing and stitch it into your online business, you can now have that same API integration and so a large language model or generative AI technologies fully powered through Radium into your business. And again, it's what are we really offering? We're offering the reduction of capital costs up front, extremely easy to use, and extremely easy to integrate. So companies that maybe aren't specialized in generative AI or real machine learning can really start putting this technology to work to improve their business in a really easy, efficient, and consumption based. If you're not using a ton, you don't pay a ton. If you're using a lot, you pay a little bit more. And I think that's really a huge win.
Absolutely. Well, look at the time that we have. Any final words or thoughts for our listeners, especially young aspirants in the AI industry?
I think to create any company in artificial intelligence these days takes tenacity. It's an exciting space where it seems there's a tidal wave of capital, et cetera. And I think when you're really getting into it, I would say that continue to persevere through adversity. There are always days whenever you're in a startup that you feel like it's going to completely implode, and to just keep remembering the sun's going to come up tomorrow and keep going. If you can believe in that, you'll be successful.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for sharing your invaluable insights with us today. It's been such a pleasure to learn more about Radium Cloud's pioneering work in the cloud computing for AI and machine learning. And to all our listeners, as always, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, or subscribe to our podcast for more engaging discussions on the intersection of technology and innovation. Once again, my name is Anne. I am the CEO of Supercharge Lab, and I'm signing off on behalf of the AIP podcast and AIP Partnerships Corp. See you in the next episode.